So my name is Gabriela, and I'm from NYU, and
my name is Arbabi Amin, and I am from Montgomery County Public Schools. I retired several years ago, and I've been working as a consultant with the STARTALK program since 2008, so a long time.
And this is how our workshop is called. And today we're doing this workshop maybe for the 5th time. It seems that this is one of the principles that STARTALK endorses, that we struggle a lot in our programs. So we want to go over again certain strategies. We want to go over again certain principles, and we've modified it a little bit so that those of you that come again to take this workshop will have some new activities, and will take some new ideas away. Our workshops' main enduring understandings will be these. And the reason why we're emphasizing these 2 points, can anyone guess why? Some of the programs separate the afternoon activities and the morning activities as classroom activities and recreational or crafts activities. The idea is to put an effort in trying to have all these activities aligned with the framework of your curriculum.
And also, oftentimes we see that the language is taught out of context. And because if something doesn't make sense in our brain, we won't get it. All the time the brain is receiving sensory stimuli. But do we keep everything that enters our brain? No. The brain retains only those concepts, those sensory stimuli that make sense, that are meaningful. And that is why when you go back, for example, in your memory, those things that you remember, how did you learn them? And that is what a few minutes ago Laura was saying. It's really, when we are teaching, it's what is going on inside our brain, not outside. So we need to think of ways that we can stimulate those areas of the brain that will really help us make sense of what is going on. And that is really why the STARTALK is pushing and is emphasizing on giving context. And when we bring in content into our teaching, that is where the context we have. And then that is what really makes sense, because it's everyday life. Whatever we learn, throughout the school year, in K through 12 or in mostly, what are they? Those are the things that we use in everyday life. So the purpose is really, by integrating these 3 components, meaning content, culture, content, and language, is really to make the teaching, bringing the real life into the classroom and making it real, so that the kids can connect to it and they can build on it and they can use it in future.
Okay. And you know how we always come to your programs as team leaders and we say, do your students know why you're doing this activity? Are you sure they understand why you're asking them to do what you're asking them to do, so that you're not lost? We have our learning objectives on the board in English. Number 1, identify. Number 2, define. Number 3, analyze. Number 4, modify. And number 5, plan. Not all of you will be able to master these skills or reach these objectives. We've tried to grade them by difficulty, so those of you who are novice learners, novice teachers. Maybe they're not going to get to plan. Maybe they will plan with assistance. Maybe they will be at the modified lesson, an old lesson that they can modify. But this is how we're making sure that the can-do statements can include up to the highest level, but yet we know that not everyone will reach them. Our STARTALK mission, just to make sure that everyone is on the same page. Okay, so we know that all of us are working with the standards, and these standards are asking us particular questions. What will students know, understand, and be able to do in the target language and culture? And number two, identify what students will do in terms of the standards. Ideally, all standards will be addressed, but it's not a requirement. Now, this is what we wanted to do. You know how we go sometimes to the target country, and there is one particular moment that we remember being able to or not able to communicate in the target language. And this moment stuck in our head in terms of our experience as a learner in the target community. So we would like you to take just 2 minutes, one, to think in your mind quietly, and two, to share with a partner what that one experience is. The idea is to think about in real life, we, the teachers, when we were learners of this language, how did we feel when we had to communicate in the language? What was the environment, what was the setting, what was the circumstance that we were in order for us to actually produce something? Whether we did it or not, whether you were successful or not, it doesn't matter. It's the situation that matters, okay? 1 minute and another minute to share. Go. Now, we need a volunteer to report on what their partner said about their experience. And the partner will add in, confirm, or deny the claim that is made by the other partner. Okay, volunteer, sharing one experience. Go ahead.
Yes, Stuart.
So my partner used her language in the States when a foreign exchange student from Germany died in their school, and the parents came over, and she had to be the liaison as the German teacher to explain the situation and how you transfer the body back home, what paperwork has to be filled out, and to deal with the cultural differences and the technical terminologies that needed to be used, and the emotions that were there, and the tender feelings that were aroused by these parents whose English was not that good. So she had a challenging use of content and cultural knowledge, but in the United States, which I thought was pretty
Okay.
real.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. So you can see the combination of the context is there, cultural issues are there, content is you have administrative tasks to perform, and this is your content, and then you have the purposeful communication and language that without which you weren't going to be able to perform your functions, right? Okay, excellent. Another interesting experience of your partner.
My partner went to Italy and with her some restaurant to order food. With her broken Italian accent, she couldn't communicate this basic food she wanted to order, and somebody has to jump in and help her out to order food.
Okay, so it's a real situation. We have the cultural aspect. You weren't successful. So our idea, anyone else?
I think
Our
Duarte-
idea, yes?
Yeah, no?
One more volunteer?
Yes.
Okay.
It's pretty much like the same example, so I was hesitant.
Uh-huh.
Heather here, who learned, Arabic in a classroom setting, felt that she had learned sort of the classic, communication style. When she found herself in a very practical situation, wishing to purchase something at a store, all of a sudden, she was not able to communicate and have a positive interaction with the storekeeper because she was lacking that very real world practical language that she needed for that particular context.
Excellent, thank you. So, the reason why we did this activity is because we usually have in our curricula a combination of language and culture. For example, language and culture, a curriculum that a lot of the Hindi curricula have language and celebrations. And then language and content, all the STEM, for example, programs, the culture is not necessarily there. And then, of course, we have, let's say, the afternoons when the professor from the local university comes and delivers a lecture. And this lecture, of course, is culture and content without the language. So our point is, how do we, what we shared, how do we recreate these experiences in our classrooms? How do we integrate culture, content, and language? Before we start even thinking about how to do it, we need to know what they mean. So, we're going to have you work on one principle just within a minute to deliver the definition. This table is working on culture, this table is working on content, this table is working on language, and you choose which principle you want to work on.
You have the freedom because you are the minority. Minority.
Okay, which one? All three. Okay, go. So you have 1 minute. You have 1 minute. Give us the definition. So let's start with the language, and everyone disagrees with the language. And let us listen to their definition, and let's see whether we will agree. Okay? One of you? Ready to take a stand?
Okay, I'll say.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so basically language does not stand alone. Language is a tool. It has to be connected with the culture and the content.
Any other opinions? Any other ideas? Yes?
I think language is a vehicle to know culture and content.
Okay. Anything else? So when we're thinking about the three, we're seeing them integrated, and this is what we suggest to you. Do we agree? Yeah. Okay. So communication is something that is extremely important because that's what language is all about. Okay, now, number 2, how about the content? Who's the content?
Content.
Okay,
All right.
go ahead.
So we have overriding themes, right? Based on the subject matter, the knowledge and sort of like the background knowledge that you have about a particular context. So we have to be careful not to confuse context with content. So overriding is the themes. That's what I got out of our discussion.
Yeah. But it's real world content
Yeah.
that is rooted in the disciplines like mathematics, history, social science, or the arts. So out of that, we extract the themes that are appropriate for our grade level, student interests, and so forth. So that becomes the content.
Do we agree? Yes. How about culture?
Culture. Do I speak? Yes. Okay. So what we discussed was that culture goes beyond traditions and historical. Instead, it should encompass what people do and value in an authentic situation.
Ooh, nice, nice. Okay, let's see
Yes.
whether we agree with you.
Do
So we have
content.
the culture first. Pretty close. It's just the 3 Ps we need to always have in mind. The products, the practices, and the perspectives. And then let's see content.
Defining culture with culture. You're You're defining culture by saying that it's culture in the earlier slide.
Mm-hmm.
So what is culture?
Culture. Okay, let's go back. So, do we agree on language, that language is for communication? Okay, now, learners use the language to identify, discuss, explain, compare, investigate, and reflect on the relationship among the products, practices, and perspectives of the culture studied. So we're breaking down the aspects of what we're studying, right? These are the 3 P's, or the 3 aspects of culture that we integrate in our classroom. Okay? Do we agree on that? Okay, good. So now we can actually talk about real integration. So we're going to see a video, and we would like you to think about these 3 questions while you're watching the video. The video is from the collection that STARTALK has of classes, and this is from the Kent University STARTALK in 2009.
Welcome to the STARTALK Classroom Video Collection. Uma Krishnan teaches a first-year high school Hindi class as part of the Hindi STARTALK student program offered by Kent State University. Notice how Uma integrates language, culture, and content in this lesson. The family is introduced in a cultural context by describing the members of the Nehru dynasty. Students use multimedia to explore the Nehru dynasty and the concept of multi-generational families. Students then use the new vocabulary to create and label their own family trees. A graphic organizer is used to allow students to compare Indian families and American families. Notice how the activity is scaffolded so that students are able to focus on cultural similarities and differences at the novice level. At the end of this lesson, students will be able to identify the family members and relationships of the Nehru dynasty and typical Indian families. Compare and contrast their own families with typical Indian families, and label their own family members in Hindi.
नमस्ते। आप सब कैसे हैं? आज हम परिवार के बारे में बात करने वाले हैं। परिवार और परिवार से जुड़े हुए रिश्ते या संबंधों के बारे में बात करने वाले हैं। कौन बता सकता है परिवार क्या होता है? परिवार किसे कहते हैं? माता, पिता, मौसा, बहन, चाचा, नानी, बेटे, हाँ, जानवर। बहुत खूब, बहुत खूब। ये सब परिवार बन जाता है। परिवार 2 तरह के होते हैं, मूल परिवार और संयुक्त परिवार। मूल परिवार छोटा होता है, जहाँ पति, पत्नी और उनके पैदाइशी बच्चे एक साथ रहते हैं, या नहीं तो हम लोग बोल सकते हैं माता, पिता और उनके बच्चे। इसको मूल परिवार कहते हैं। यह संयुक्त परिवार बन जाता है जब रक्त संबंधी भी साथ आके मिलने और रहना शुरू करते हैं। जैसे दादा और दादी साथ में आके रहते हैं, चाचा चाची भी रहते हैं, और ये माता पिता, इनके विवाहित बच्चे भी साथ रहते हैं। तो ये परिवार बड़ा हो जाता है, और संयुक्त परिवार बड़ा होता है। मूल परिवार छोटा होता है, संयुक्त परिवार बड़ा होता है। चलिए आज हम लोग, मैंने आपको एक पन्ना दिया है, हम अभी एक YouTube का वीडियो देखेंगे और उससे देखेंगे, उसमें कुछ हम लोग रिश्तों के बारे में सुनेंगे। देखते हैं आप कितने रिश्ते पहचान सकते हैं।
प्रेम आज भी वही करता है विनोद। प्रेम? प्रेम विनोद।
अब ये लोग क्या कर रहे हैं?
पापा
प्रेम, वेलकम होम।
प्रीतम अंकल।
नमस्ते कर रहे हैं।
आंटी, प्रेम भैया आ गए?
आ गए। गले मिलते हैं। अच्छा।
Hey, come on. माँ,
रहने दे
प्रेम, तू पिछली छुट्टियों में घर नहीं आया था ना, इसलिए माँ बड़ी नाराज है।
मामी, माँ को तो मैं मना लूंगा।
रामकिशन जी, क्या खाने के टेबल पर हंसी ठिठोली होती हो? जहाँ घर की लेडीज और बच्चियाँ हमें अपने हाथों से प्यार से खाना खिलाएं, वही घर है।
आपने अभी देखा सलमान खान जब घर आते हैं तो सब उनसे कैसे मिलते हैं? नमस्ते कहते हैं या हाथ मिलाते हैं या गले मिलते हैं या पाँव छूते हैं? क्या करते हैं? पाँव छूते हैं। बहुत खूब। तो आप कुछ संबंधों के बारे में सुन पाए? कौन कौन से शब्द आपने सुने? संबंध। मामी, भैया, बेटा, पिता, माता, चाचा। अच्छा, आपने चाचा सुना? बहुत खूब। बहुत अच्छा काम किया आपने। तो चलिए, अभी थोड़े तो संबंध हम सीख गए। अभी अगला देखते हैं, राजवंश परिवार के बारे में देखते हैं और सीखते हैं दादा दादी और उनके माता पिता को हम क्या कहते हैं। परदादा, परदादी, परदादा, परदादी, हम वो सब सीखेंगे। चले?
Okay, so we're going to stop at this point and we will talk about this video, having in mind the 3 questions we asked in the beginning.
Yeah, could you
Any reactions to?
Just in your groups, if you
This is novice level.
novice level.
And then who wants to discuss number 1, question number 1?
Now, number 1. Anyone? Any group? Did she use authentic materials, resources?
I assume the video was authentic.
Okay. Okay.
We don't
Everyone
know.
agree?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
The second question. Was she using the target language? Yes. She was.
But is it for communicative purposes?
Was it communicative?
Yeah. Are students learning the language in content? Content was there. Authentic resources, yes.
Now we see some
Now,
faces.
let's look at the 3 of them and see if anything is missing, because we didn't see the whole lesson. We don't know what came before and what is going to follow. So we are only focusing on this segment of the video of the classroom, and we want to know, just, go over the checklist and see which one you want to check. Okay, just,
So,
okay. Anyone would like to share?
so number 1, do we have a
Number
check?
1.
No, why? No interpersonal. We didn't see interpersonal. Maybe it follows, but we didn't see interpersonal.
Yes.
How about culture? I see different opinions.
So, as we were discussing here on the table, I mean, we saw the video, right? Is there for us, it's not enough. We were debating whether the video is enough to present the culture. And if not, my question is, what's the alternative?
Okay.
That's just a question on the table to...
Okay.
Yeah.
Good question. What's the alternative? We will address that in a minute. What about the content? What do you think?
Content was there.
Was it there? What was the content? Can you identify a discipline that this content relates to?
Yes, discipline.
I'm not hearing a discipline that this content related to.
It's
History, I hear. Is
social
history there?
studies.
Yes. And you were saying?
Social studies.
So at the novice level, here, we have marginal touch on history and social studies. So there is some content, right? Okay. Now,
we would like you just, in groups, if you were going to teach this lesson, what would you do? Just for 2 minutes, what would you do to add so that, the components that are missing will be there? If you were in the classroom and you were going to teach the same lesson, meaning family, what would you do? Would you like to share what you were saying?
Well, I was talking about, my concern was the level of language learner depicted in the video. And obviously they're older learners, and I realized they were trying to teach the family, but the activities were not cognitively engaging for the students. So it wasn't meaningful and relevant and really anchored in meaningful context. So that was a key concern beyond some of the questions that you were asking, was the meaningfulness and relevance of the activities and the level of cognitive engagement for the learner.
okay. Any other ideas? Any other additions you want to make to the activity?
I think before we start, in my opinion, just like introducing family members through a culture like what we did in the video, we have to introduce our culture here, like the names first before you compare. And you go and then you introduce the others, like through creative family or something like that's going to be sensitive for other students.
To use previous knowledge?
Previous knowledge
make it
before you
personal?
compare, yeah.
Okay. Now, do you think that these 3 principles were integrated? Or was something missing? And I think you already identified that something was missing. Anyone? Can you think of something? Can you think of something that will come right in the middle and that will make the actual integration happen in the classroom? Yes? Meaningful communication was missing. There we go. Okay, now that we have identified that this was missing, we wanted to revisit and we wanted to think about what would you do in this classroom to create? What kind of task would you design that would integrate the 3 principles? Imagine they had the lists, they had the matching, they were identifying, they were asking each other questions based on scripted dialogues. Now, you come in, you're the observers of this classroom, and you want to make it even better. What kind of task would you create, would you design? And think about the levels and the ages that you're teaching, so that eventually this task that you will create, you could take to your classrooms, okay? So we have 3 minutes for that. Think about a meaningful communication task that will integrate the 3 principles. Okay, let me stop you at this point, and I want you to turn your attention to the screen. And I want you to think maybe this organizer might help you enrich the meaningfulness of the task and actually help you integrate the 3 principles. So why don't you go over the organizer, Iran, with them?
These are only some ideas you may want to add. And an organizer, you all know, it's only to organize your thoughts, the areas where you want to focus on. And here we have the content, culture, and that integrated into meaningful communication. And are there any ideas that you would like to add to what you see in this graphic organizer? Anything else? Because we have the areas like social studies, nuclear versus extended family. In many cultures, several generations, they live together. We have culture, the hierarchy in some cultures, yes.
We had a suggestion here, and
Yeah.
this actually comes up in a lot of our classrooms, discussing family, alternative families, or
Absolutely.
families where single parents. and
Yes.
American students have a very hard time then with some of the
Mhm,
cultures trying
mhm.
to explain those situations, and being
Yes.
conscious of that.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. Any other ideas, anything else that you would add to this graphic organizer if you were going to do family in your program?
Family traditions is also.
Traditions, yes,
Bringing
absolutely.
that into the fore.
Absolutely.
Which will be which principle?
The tradition is a practices. Yeah.
The culture.
Oh, yeah, the culture, I'm sorry. Yeah, the culture, I'm sorry.
Anything
The
else?
practice within the culture.
Yes. And we need to add them. Later on, we'll add those ideas to the graphic organizer so that you can find the final copy on the StarTalk website. Anything else? Any other ideas?
In addition to choices of names, naming conventions in general. So if
Yes,
you see a name,
choices
you
of
can associate maybe
names.
male and female, or you can associate
Yeah.
a certain class
Very
of
good
person.
And it's also a question of generation. For example, in my own culture, I'm from Iran. When I look at, my mother's generation, they had a different type of name than my generation, and then my son and my child, and then those younger kids that I see, for example, they are all related to the nature. They have ocean, sea, river, flowers. So it really depends. And sometimes, for example, they are related to the religion, or they are related to the history. For example, in my family, the names came from the history. Back then, and we were called, for example, my name is Iran Dokt, meaning the daughter of Iran. So these are really the names, or my mother is Puran Dokt. That's part of the queen, history. So these are related, and I'm glad that you brought that up. Anything else that you would like to add?
In the same vein, it's also important to, present this vocabulary that between family members, we really don't use. I don't call my mother, I have I call her mommy, etc., right? The same for dad, and it's important to introduce that vocabulary as well.
Yes.
Because they don't hear, people within the family addressing each other as father, grandfather, etc.
And this will go into principle?
Practices to a point.
Practices to a point, culture. Yes, I'm taking notes. I'm taking notes. We will
need
put them
to
on
add
the organizer.
those, to the graphic organizer.
Yes.
Now we have created some, is it afterward? Some prompts to make, any other suggestions to make it meaningful before we go to the prompts?
You were working in your groups?
Yeah.
Any suggestions for meaningful communication that you would add? Oh, now it's changing. After we saw the organizer, you're not sure?
Simply more interpersonal communication would make it more meaningful.
Yes.
Okay.
But I think the graphic organizer you just show are very good, provides very good ideas for contents and culture, but how do we incorporate that and create a meaningful language, kind of summative language task? I think that's missing.
That's missing? Okay.
Yeah.
Any suggestions for that? Then I will move on and show you our ideas.
We have created some prompts for the family for different levels. The first one is really novice, low, novice, mid. They will be able to do that. So we'll give you just, a few, maybe 1 minute to read it or less. Because we have a lot to do and we have little time. So you are giving purpose to what the students are going to do.
Okay, everyone done? Then we have another one, Iran developed for intermediate level. Again, family. This does the magic, right? Okay. And then let's see, again, spiraling up the difficulty. Now advanced. Okay?
And that is what we mean by giving context and real life situations. Because why do we learn a second language, a third language? It's because we want to communicate with people who are speaking that language, either through travels or when they come, we have an exchange program, or we meet someone. So that is really the real life situation that you are an exchange student and they are curious about dynasties in the United States, and so even for the family, it's not only for the novice level, you can take it to intermediate and advanced level. So okay, can they work for your programs? I mean, are they doable? Okay, great, thank you.
Now we have a handout for you.
Yes,
and we're switching gears to another topic. And you will look at this lesson plan, and this is what we expect the student programs to be using, the template for the 3 days before, during, and after the visit. You are now required by STARTALK to use the templates. And we want you to think. You have the checklist.
Do you have enough
Imagine
copies?
you're visitors to your own classrooms. And you need to identify something missing. I'm going to pull out the graphic organizer. Of course, feel free to add a different bullet. It might give you more ideas. And you have 5 minutes to discuss. This is a wonderful lesson plan, but something is missing. And we want to figure out what it is. And we want to have a suggestion.
More than one thing is missing in this lesson.
Okay.
Let's think of,
Okay, let's hear your ideas now.
Yes, we can start here, please.
Okay, everyone?
Everyone?
Every table has a great idea. Let's start with this one.
Yes.
At this point, we felt the need to learn all these things. What was the need? What was the real task? What was the reason they needed to do it? There's no culture, no context.
Great, thank you. Anything else in this group? Thank you. Anyone else would like to add to what you said?
We were wondering, why are you teaching them breakfast? What's your purpose? Like, do you want them to order from a restaurant? Or do you want them to go shopping for these ingredients, prepare a shopping list? It has to be some purpose there.
Yes.
In the same way, why are they collecting that data on who likes what? What is the purpose of that? What is going to be the final product? Are they going to write something about,
Yes.
What's going to be the final product?
Yes, please.
Well, we were saying how to give it context, maybe you're hosting a exchange student and this is their first breakfast in the U.S.
That's it.
What would you serve them so they feel welcomed?
Absolutely. And if you look at the graphic organizer, it doesn't mean that all ages they eat or drink the same thing for breakfast. We have, for example, time zones. If I have breakfast at 7 a.m. here, is it 7 a.m. in France or in Turkey or in China? So that is really what you can incorporate many content areas as well as culture that was, intentionally missing. And we had thrown in that lesson just graphs. However, because the context was missing, there was no conclusion. Yes, they came up with that, but why? Yes, you practice math, but they already know, how to make graphs. So we had to extend it to something more, advanced, so that we add to what they have learned in other content areas. So that is, so these are some of the ideas that just, we made this graphic organizer in order to organize our thoughts. But do you have any other ideas that you would like to add to this graphic organizer so that we can take it back and complete it and then post it again on the website?
The only other thing you could is have the students identify potential allergies that they may have about certain foods.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, they may need products that are gluten-free or that have specific dietary restrictions. Yeah, vegetarian is another good one.
Yes.
Yeah, so you could enhance it by bringing that element into it.
Yeah, and in your group, you were talking also about calories
Yeah,
and
the
diet.
calories, yeah.
So
It's
that
up
is,
there.
yes, yes.
Calories and like the food pyramid.
Yeah, absolutely,
That-
yes.
Yeah, because the kids, I mean, especially elementary kids, they're definitely learning about food pyramid, like how much vegetables should you eat in a day and fruit and things. So yeah.
But then even in high school,
Even then, yeah.
Because everyone wants to be really on diet these days, you want to have healthy food, so that is really a good place to introduce that food pyramid, and so that they can see the value of each thing that they are, eating. For example, I eat a lot of sweets, and I know that that's too bad, but, I need to look at that graphic organizer and to that, food pyramid all the time in order to control myself. So.
Okay, so we're going to show you a video that STARTALK Central has prepared for you, which focuses on integration. And we would like you to watch it and think about one particular idea that you will take away, that you will implement in your program.
This is new. This is a new video.
And this is one of the tools that Laura was talking about today.
This video presents aspects of a program that successfully integrated culture, content, and language in ways that allowed for meaningful communication. The integration of culture, content, and language is one of the 6 principles of effective teaching and learning endorsed by STARTALK. Learners are actively engaged as they use their emerging language skills to work with content while exploring aspects of the target culture. The YN STARTALK program in Montgomery County, Maryland, elected to build on an existing elementary STEM unit developed by the state.
Water has a lot of meaning. In the Chinese culture, it's one of the 5 elements, and it's really essential in life.
The existing unit, Water, Water Everywhere, outlined content goals and suggested learning activities that the program could adapt to meet their needs.
And there are a number of experiments and concepts similar to what we have in mind. Why not adapt whatever exists? So that's the reason we choose water.
The program then selected cultural elements related to the theme. How do we design units that integrate culture, content, and language? Let's begin with a working STARTALK definition of culture, content, and language before considering how these elements are part of the Water, Water Everywhere unit. Learners acquire cultural knowledge and insights as they consider and reflect on the relationships among the products, practices, and perspectives of the cultures being studied. They use their language skills to identify, discuss, explain, compare, and investigate the culture using the target language. Content-related instruction allows learners to make meaningful connections to the world around them. Learners build, reinforce, and expand their knowledge of other disciplines in the world while using the target language. Throughout the program, learners use language in the interpretive, interpersonal, and presentational modes of communication. Learning experiences are designed to allow students to use language as they work with the content and cultural topics of the unit. These types of learning experiences allow learners to engage in meaningful communication. It has a purpose and sounds real. When culture, content, and language are integrated, learning occurs much as it does in the real world. Based on the STARTALK definition for culture, content, and language, what learning targets might you expect to see in a unit on water everywhere? Watch as veteran teacher Ita Liu teaches a lesson in which students will be asked to use their language skills to make scientific predictions, learn about the density of water, and make comparisons between Chinese and American bodies of water. Listen as she describes the process for creating learning targets that integrate culture, content, and language in ways that lead to meaningful communication.
I think context is most important. That's what we call the meaningful context. They will say, oh, why that's connected to the other one? Why you say like or dislike? They will say the pattern. If you say the math or science, the most important that they see the pattern. I think language is the same thing. They have same pattern there. So like, dislike, you see the expression 不喜欢, right? You say 喜欢, 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 喜欢. It's all the body gesture can tell you what is 喜欢, what is not 喜欢. You see the pattern. And then for the science, you see the floating part, put the oil on the top of river water, sea water. You stir them, they still not mix, right? So you see the pattern there. And then you give them number. You see the pattern, the number, why one is bigger than the other one. So when they see all the pattern, they understand what they know. In their mind, they may not just listen to your Chinese. They see all the facts there. They see all the phenomena they watch. So they will say, oh, language is not a barrier. We learn language. We didn't even notice we were learning the language. So I think it's very, very important for teacher to think about the whole context of your lesson. I have the worksheet. So the worksheet is divided two parts. They ask questions because we need the student do interpersonal communication. So I try to let them ask each other, 河水喜欢海水吗? So if they predict to say 喜欢, they will check 喜欢. If not, they check 不喜欢. They say maybe we need to put more culture things, but they say I'm not a culture teacher. Can you put the culture things in your lab too? I say, yes, I can do it. So I collected the picture that Chinese people float on the Chinese Dead Sea. In fact, last year I didn't use Chinese Dead Sea. I used the Dead Sea in the Middle East. So I say maybe I can relate it to Chinese more so they will know how the Chinese people, their life there, how the science also related to the Chinese people's life. This whole week, our theme a little bit around to fight against the pollution. So I introduced a little bit the pollution from the plastic bags and the oil pollution. So I say I can put it there. And then the sea animals, they got hurt when there's the oil spill and the plastic bag everywhere. So that's how I combine. And then say how I can use simple sentences to teach science. So I think I use 喜欢, 不喜欢 as like or dislike. You can use a simple sentence to teach science. The whole class, you say, we just say 喜欢, 不喜欢. And then by the you see, there's science there. If you have enough body movements, enough flashcard, enough hints, and enough reference, enough context, and the student can understand everything. You say float or not float is a new word. The language is naturally get in their mind. 有的说不服，你们说呢？不服，你们说呢？啊？不服啊！我们来看看这个柠檬是服还是不服？来看看。耶！不服。服不服？服啊，柠檬服。
How could you apply what you have learned in this video to create learning experiences that cause language, as Wee Tao says, to get naturally in the mind of the learner?
Yes. Okay.
teacher do to have outstanding teachers.
Exactly.
Director is not important.
So the question, was there one thing that you thought would be useful for your program, for your teaching, for your students, or for the teachers that you will be instructing? Anyone? Yes?
Concrete experiment. Because the student, they see this thing, more comprehensive than what you say, Like they use example like water, they put the lemons there and then floating. Kids just saw it and just image in there, they learn it.
Yes? Anyone else?
And that content was relevant.
Yes.
And appropriate for that age. And that's why they were so engaged. Because if you did the same with second year college students, it wouldn't be that successful. But for that age, it was so appropriate and very engaging.
Yeah, and
absolutely.
emotions and feelings are very important. That's what Laura also mentioned this morning, that emotionally, when you remember something, why do you remember it? Because it was associated with some feelings. In the classroom, if you want the students to learn a song, do they learn it faster, or when you want to give them conjugation to learn the song? And you can see that, the kids can see anything. They can remember anything. Whereas when the emotions are not there, it doesn't click in your mind, in your brain, and then it's not meaningful. And that's why, the kids were involved and they were engaged because, first of all, it was age appropriate. It was for this age level. And then also it motivated them, it engaged them in really being curious to see what happens next, because they were predicting whether, it floats or sinks. They didn't know, so they were excited to see the results. So that is what is really learning and teaching are all about.
Do you want to say something, Duarte?
I was going to say,
yes.
The whole concept of inquiry in which they would engage the cognitive dimension of that lesson.
Yes.
And the language became almost a byproduct.
Yeah, that's what she was saying.
And that is the beauty of the whole thing is, because they were learning that new information, new, real content. And the whole cognitive engagement and inquiry process that was going on sort of, took over the lesson. And of course, all the language was there. They were being baited in language and absorbing it in a very natural way.
And it was comprehensible. The students could understand exactly what the teacher was saying.
Exactly.
No problem in understand. Yes.
I mean, this is probably very different from what we're discussing, but I feel that the teacher's enthusiasm is by far, one of the most important. I mean, the teacher's so invested and so committed in what she was doing, high energy, and just it's as if she wants to find out if it's going to float or sink. It's just wonderful.
Emotions and feelings and excitements are contagious. As a classroom teacher, if you don't really act out, if you are not really showing any emotions, the kids also do not connect with the teacher and with what is going on. Whereas this teacher was really, she was very involved and engaged in what was going to teach, and she was interested in what she was teaching. So, and that is why, it was contagious. The students also, wanted to learn, yes.
A challenge for me, personally, and maybe for all of us, is we tend to hire language teachers. This teacher was definitely a science teacher. She knows her content.
Yes.
She felt at home in her own discipline. So she was sharing, she had deeper knowledge of the disciplines, therefore she was, really, really sharing the discipline, what she knows best. She also happens to be a Chinese speaker and also an excellent teacher, period, that extended to the language. Science, knowing the content, and most often, our teachers have to learn sort of a superficial level of the content in order to bring it into the classroom. So this is a professional development piece in which we have to invest our teachers to also spend time learning the content as well as the language pedagogy. And most often we focus on language pedagogy and not deepening the content knowledge. Yes. So that's the new learning program.
One more comment?
I also like to add, when we talk about the STEM, we don't want to talk about the specific of science. we want the students to learn the concept of science in terms of observation, measurement, in terms of an understanding of that, to get away with the concept of science, as well as the language that go with it. So that's important, not specific, not the knowledge of books per se, but it's in terms of the critical thinking we talk about. And that's where the student learn.
Thank you.
Yes, one more comment?
And since we're talking about culture, I feel like the teacher and the students, they also establish their own classroom culture. And I feel like she, very successfully, she established that culture of students were not afraid and they were engaged. So their mini classroom culture was also there as well.
They took risks. I mean, and that is really the beauty of it, when you create this environment in your classroom where the kids are not afraid of taking the risk. And that is what we want to do in our classrooms in order to encourage them to participate, because otherwise I will be the sole speaker in the classroom.
Yeah. Yes?
I feel that, the teacher, she engaged the students so very well in the classroom, that language learning, it became like a byproduct of the whole thing.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yes.
One more, Claire?
I just wanted to say that this is such a relevant world problem, the water supply and the pollution, that these very young children can go home and even express it in English, what they learned in school today, and their parents would get the message.
Exactly.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Many good
Now,
ideas.
we gave you a little bit of a break. As you noticed, we started up with more intense tasks. Now you had the plateauing. Now we're going to go back. I think you took a good rest. We will switch gears again, and we will be thinking about another integrated curriculum, which will have the meaningful communication, and we're switching to animals. Now, we would like you to conceptualize stage 1 and stage 2 in a lesson plan. At your tables, think about whether you want to work based on age only, so that would be the whole table, or based on proficiency, which will mean that maybe you will pair up or form smaller groups, so that what you design in terms of stage 1, the can-dos, the knows, and the understandings, and stage 2, this meaningful task that will give you the information that your learners achieved what you put as objectives. Stage 1, stage 2 in the template. Please conceptualize the lesson and be ready to report on these 2 stages in 10 minutes from now. Okay, everyone?
Vocabulary.
As you know, you can never be really ready for class.
We don't have anything.
So, let's listen to each other now. Okay, let's listen to each other's ideas. I think group number 1 will report. They have very volunteering kind of faces and expressions. Let's go. Okay, everyone.
What, you haven't said anything yet, so go ahead.
Group number 1.
Okay, we came up with a task for high school students at a lower level, maybe novice high. And our task is to basically look at an animal, an endangered species in a certain region, in a certain country, and basically explain maybe the cultural significance of that animal. Also to pick this endangered species, so they have to sort of talk about which species they're going to pick together. Then after that, they'll put together a presentation on some of the features of the animal. It's maybe where it lives, the color, what it looks like, that sort of thing. And they'll make a video together. And then after that, they can have an advocacy sort of task where you say, you should vote for preserving my animal. And that way it includes all the different modes of communication.
Excellent, excellent,
excellent, excellent.
Okay, group number 2. Group number, it's never the same.
Yeah.
It's never the same.
We're not gonna talk that word, but okay.
Okay, group number 2.
Our first stage is actually pretty similar to theirs, is identifying endangered species, especially like within Chinese culture, talking about panda, or in African cultures, like the rhinos being hunted for their horns. With high school, we're probably intermediate level, because I think they're cognitively able to understand the hunting, things like that. And our performance task that we'd have for them is once they've discussed, you know, the pros and cons of hunting, then to divide them into the groups and have them debate the different sides of the issue in the language.
Excellent. Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Group number 3.
We did not get that far.
Okay, let's try.
So, we had our do's and no's, stage 1 do's and no's, and we decided to do.
What is 11?
What's that? Oh, yeah. So our we decided to focus on novice mid students.
Novice
low.
low.
Oh, novice low to novice mid. Yeah.
Good.
So very low, and
Very low.
so yeah. So we figure, you know, students will probably be more interested in comparing how different cultures view different animals, because we value different animals differently. So for the do's, we have 2 statements. Students will be able to describe each animal by characteristics in terms of symbols. And the second one will be to compare how Americans and Chinese cultures value and portray each animal. And for their no's, we just listed certain sentence structures that they need to know, and trying to tailor it to that level.
Okay.
Okay.
Dog, bad.
Oh,
good.
yes,
Good here. Okay, there we go. At the novice level, the attitudes can be expressed in a simple way. And context.
They're trying to choose a mascot for the
Yes,
Oh,
there we
that
go.
is great. They
Excellent.
have a purpose.
Excellent.
Excellent.
Okay.
Excellent.
Number
Group
4.
So we have elementary school novice low is our low level. So we are doing farm animals, and we'll talk about food and products from those animals. So they'll identify name of the animals and identify name of animal products. They can match the picture with name and animal's picture.
In the target language.
In the target language, yes.
And the context could be something like one of the child is missing today from their class because the child is sick. He had allergy to milk. So now everyone is thinking, where did the milk, I mean, he ate some cheese, and he said, why is this person, if just by eating cheese, why is he sick? Where did this cheese come from? And something like that, in that context, they can relate it to.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.
I think we have reached the end of our workshop. If you look at your conference booklet, toward the end or at the end of it,
It's
there
about
is
64 pages or something.
integrating culture, content, and language. And on the back, you have prompts. The first 3 prompts are based on travel, and the last 3 was on animals. So if you want to take some ideas with you, I mean, I wish we had captured all of the ideas that you shared with us so that we could add to this PowerPoint presentation. Hopefully we remember some of them and we can add. Yes?
I just wanted to add, and I noticed you had the slide up there about the new ACCL standards, and I assume folks would be purchasing them for their professional libraries. But many of the language-specific learning scenarios that have been developed are excellent. I just reviewed the Hindi learning scenarios, and the manner in which they integrated language, content, and culture was really exemplary, and this was in all different proficiency levels.
Excellent.
So I would encourage you, when you purchase the standards, to look at some of the, it may not even be your language, you know, that you're teaching, but the learning scenarios are very, very rich, and I'm giving a pitch for the Hindi scenarios. They were really exceptional.
And
I
we would
haven't
like
seen a lot of the others.
also, we have
Just right
some models of curriculum on the STARTALK website, Hindi, Urdu, and I believe Chinese, and we encourage you to use those models. Why would you start from scratch if you have something that is working? So please make sure that you go and look at the model curricula that are on the website.
On the resources page.
Resources. And then you may want to adapt them. Maybe you don't want to use the whole thing, but why do you start from scratch if there is already something that has been really working in the classroom?
Okay,
Thank you.
This PowerPoint will be on the website. We didn't include one more video if you're training your teachers, if you're using this PowerPoint for training in your programs. There's also one more video with the can-dos that some of you saw me skipping. So it's on animals. And here are the last resources that we can offer you while you're preparing for your programs. And go back to this one. And I don't know whether we will agree, but what do we think about the first one, the first statement? Yes? Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes? Yes. Do we agree? Yes. Great. Yes. Okay, and then the last one. Are we on the same page? Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming. Thank you. Wonderful.